Hi there, my name is John Henning. I am the operations manager here at Hume Architecture, and today we're going to take a look through some of our really highly detailed projects and talk about why it's important to start our architecture planning process early. Our first project here is a house we're designing in Stafford, and this one just recently got completed. We spent a long time with the client coming up with different details for the wall construction, the foundation, how the roof meets the walls, a lot of small intricate details that had we wanted to build this project within a shorter timeline, 3-4 months, would not have been possible. This specific drawing set took us probably about 6 months or so to work through with the client, not just the actual design, the floor plan, not just the window layouts, not just materials, but actually coming up with the details of the wall construction, how everything comes together. So taking a look, we have our 3D view. This gives you an idea of the overall size, the scale, and the shape of the home. These are the kind of basics we start off in the schematic design phase, that we can block out all of these different portions. As we go deeper into each phase, we become more intricate with all the details. Right here, we have our elevation drawings. These ones really help give an idea of the different windows that are on the project, the size of the windows, the location, the numbers that we have on there. So we'll do a window schedule that's associated with these drawings that will tell you exactly what these windows are, their operation, whether they're casements, they're operable, or if they're double hung, sliding windows, doors, everything like that is all notated here on these elevations. We can also get a little bit more detailed with the actual materials. We don't typically dive into that if the client doesn't want us to, but we can go as far as picking out the exact manufacturer and the exact color, ordering in samples, and getting all those other details figured out. So with our different levels of what we provide as a service as architects, we can get as detailed as the client wants us to. If we were to stay as simple as possible, we won't pick out exact materials. We'll just be rough. If you want to have like lap siding or just horizontal siding versus vertical siding, we can call those details out. There's a few different things that will change for the actual wall construction, but typically we can leave that as generic as vertical or horizontal. Similarly with a roof, we can leave that as asphalt, we can leave it as metal. We don't need to pick out the exact manufacturing, the exact color, the exact style, but we can go as in-depth as possible with those things. If we're looking at doing the more generic text, we can do those in a shorter amount of time because we're not researching the exact colors and how they're manufactured and how they get applied to the home. But if we want to use the exact manufacturers, those will be really important to make sure we have all the small details of, well, LP has a different install than Hardy plank, and how do those all come together, and we can note those on the drawings if that was part of the process. After taking a look at some of our more head-on views, these ones don't give us a whole lot of depth as some of our other 3D drawings might. So sometimes we can go into a little bit more detail and take a look at a 3D section. So this is a cut in multiple directions. So our floor plans is a cut in our horizontal plane. Our elevations are kind of a view cut through the ground, looking directly at the building itself. And then our section is taking that line and bringing it through the floor plan and taking a look at the actual construction of the entire thing. So with this 3D section, we're taking a cut in multiple different areas. So we have one cutting through the house, in the front, in the back, and on the top. So we get a lot of different views in this one thing that we have here. You can see the floor construction up on the top here. You can see our open web joists. We can see the stairs coming down. We can see our foundation going down into the footer. And we can also see our deck connection with the door going up through the wall and the roof above. Now this is a pretty generic section. This isn't as detailed. The client didn't want to go into the exact connection points with the 3D documentation, but we took that with our 2D documentation and fleshed this out a little bit more. Now taking a look at our 2D drawings, these, like I said previously, are not three-dimensional. They don't show a lot of depth to them. These are a cut straight through the actual floor plan, and these are noted with our different symbols here. So you can see up here, we have this slice cutting through, and that notates that there's another section cutting through that specific portion of the building that is located on a different page. These 4 sections here are all cut through the main gable, and we can see how the stair interacts with each of the portions, each level. So we can see how the stairs come from the 2nd floor down to the 1st, and we cut through the actual center, going all the way from the 2nd floor down to the basement, and then we come a little bit closer and we're only showing the actual floor construction versus the stairs. As we go through the drawing set, the details get more and more intricate. We start with more generic sections and views and start going in and getting the exact construction technologies. So with this section, we've blown up the scale, which means we've made it a bit bigger, and we can see some more of those details. As we go through, you can see we have our different section cuts, and we have different callouts. These callouts zoom in on a particular detail that we want to show the contractor and the client to make sure everything comes together the correct way. As we look at these wall details here, we can actually see the foundation up onto the main floor up to the second, and then the second floor up to the roof. We can see how each of these connections all interact with one another. On your standard house, we're not gonna have as much going on with these connections. This particular project has 2 walls actually built into it. So we have the exterior 2x4 and an interior 2x4. The total wall thickness for this project is actually 12 inches. So this gives us a ton of insulation in there and allows us to have some thermal separation between the interior and the exterior of the home. These are the details that don't always apply to every project, but when they do, are things we need to make sure are discussed early on so that all the different parts of this project are thought of. When you want to have a more energy efficient home, we need to think about insulation types, wall thickness, foundation types, and the actual thickness of insulation between the floor and the basement. All of these different things will play a key role in making sure your house comes together correctly and on time and budget. If these details are not discussed early on, we can run into issues with current code, energy code, New York State building code, any other code in every other state. Everything changes. Typically every few years, a state will adopt new code. Specifically for New York State, the energy code has adopted R30 insulation for your cavities on the interior. Now, if you don't know what that means, when you go to Home Depot, you go to Lowe's, you see those big rolls of fiberglass, those pink things with the Pink Panther on them. Those are your fiberglass batt insulation. So that typically is R21 for a new cavity wall. And with the new code updates, that is bumped up to R30, which, if you guessed, is not on those shelves. So what they have on there instead is you're gonna have to have other provisions. So maybe you're gonna bump up insulation in the foundation, in the roof, or you can do continuous insulation, which is a foam board that you put on the exterior, or you can do any other form of water resistant material that allows for a thermal break between the exterior and the interior. All of these details are extremely important as we come into the design of the home. If we need to accommodate R30 cavity insulation, you either need to expand the actual width and depth of your wall construction so that you can fit in the proper amount of insulation. You need to plan for exterior insulation, how the siding comes together, your weather protection on the exterior, or we need to think about other materials, spray foam, other things like that in that nature, which all comes into how we detail each of these drawings. They all have a slightly different component that comes to them. Taking a look at this window detail, we can see exactly how our trim comes together to meet the window and our exterior weather protection and our interior air barrier notated in the red. This amount of detail is something that we got into specifically with the client because they wanted to make sure this house was airtight, and this is a huge priority for them. This is not a huge priority for everybody, and your typical construction will have some of these gaps in the process where if you don't have these details figured out early on, they won't be built. If you come to a contractor later and you say you want to have interior air barriers or you want to go with zip versus OSB on the exterior, these are things that can cause changes in the overall construction budget, and they were called change orders. And that would pretty much mean that first number that they gave you is going to start jumping up pretty high because you're changing the different construction, you're changing the materials, things that were not agreed upon early on. Our goal is to eliminate that as much as possible. There will be small changes here and there based on preference. You might like a different window, you might like a different color, you might like a different flooring. But the key construction elements, your walls, your insulation, your roofing, all those kind of things are very important to make sure we're figuring out early and are in the details. Like these air barriers, like this insulation. If the client told the contractor, I'm just looking to build a 2,800 square foot home, and we hadn't discussed any of these details, and then they came to them later and said, actually, I want to do a double 2x4 wall with interior air barrier and an exterior weather protection system with continuous insulation, all of those things would be a little bit more complex than your standard home. The final thing I want to look at with this project, specifically our Stafford project, is one of our pretty large LVLs that we had in here. This is another part of the process that gets lost in the actual overall thought of the design. When we're thinking about how long our floor span is and how tall our walls are, we're mainly thinking about how nice it looks, right? That's not true. We need to think about how everything is actually structurally supported. If you have a 40-foot floor joist, that's not supported by anything on the interior. After a year, your floor is just going to sag down and you're going to have the bowling ball kind of effect going in your home, which you don't want to have. So we think about all those details as early as possible. So if we have those long spans, we try and think of, okay, how can we break up that span on the interior? Do we have structurally supported walls? Do we have beams? How does that all get integrated? With this project specifically, the client wanted to do a pretty large sliding glass door and then a pretty large window unit next to that. So what that made us had to think about was how is that supporting the floor above and how does that load come down into the foundation? Taking a look at this drawing specifically, we can see our beam in the top right, and then we can see the actual column connection that goes through the wall down into the foundation. On the left-hand side, you can see where we have that call out for the actual footer foundation for that. And all of these things, while they're not exactly exciting for the typical homeowner, are all things that need to be put in place, or else somebody's figuring this out on site and they might not be putting in this much thought into it. A contractor might understand the logistics behind this, but they need to have it engineered or they're kind of just go off whatever they think might be best, which might not always be the best solution for that process. Wrapping up talking about this Stafford project, we're going to take a look at the floor plans and just see exactly how these are integrated into the overall design conversation. Like I said early on, our schematic design is really coming up with the actual scale of the home itself, how much square footage you're looking to have, bedrooms, bathrooms, dog washes, all these different features that you want to add in there, and how they fit into the overall form and layout of the house. When we get this house into that actual floor plan, all of those details start to become a reality. You get dimensionality, you get to start picking out materials, you get to see how they interact with one another. And this really helps us frame the overall conversation of how the home is going to be constructed. Once we get those dimensions on there, we can start talking about exactly what fits within that space. If you want to have a 13 by 14 main bedroom suite, then you need to make sure you have enough room for that. It might take away from your living space, it might take away from your kitchen, and we can see how each of these different parts of the project interact in your floor plan. Taking a look at the actual basement foundation, we can see exactly where our mechanical space is, we can see how the stairs come down into that space, and we can see some room for future expansion on the right-hand side. This also gives us some of those key column and beam locations that we had spoken about earlier. Looking at the actual first floor plan of the home, we get to see everything broken into three main sections. On the left-hand side, we have our kitchen space. On the central portion, we have the living space. And on the right-hand side is our main bedroom suite. Each of these things, from a client perspective, whether it's you or someone else, have different versions of what you want. Different scales, different size, different levels of importance. So if you want to have a larger great room, that might take away from your kitchen. If you want to have a larger kitchen and great room, that might take away from your main space. If you want to have a larger space for all of those, you're going to have a larger footprint overall. So all of these things are really important to nail down early on in the process, so we can make sure that you are well aware of the budget, of timeline, how long it takes for the construction to be built, when you can start building. We have a lot of people that will come in the summertime looking to get built as soon as possible, and they want to come up with all these different ideas and layouts and floor plans. And it really puts a strain on our design. It puts a strain on them financially to make sure that they can try and get all of this stuff taken care of before we get our first freeze. So our recommendation is to always come in as early as possible. You might not be prepared to put down the full payment for a home. Prices have only gone up and we understand that, but that's why we're here. We're here to start that process at a significantly smaller portion of your overall house budget, and use that time efficiently. So in the wintertime, when you're thinking about all these different ideas, your kitchen counters, your bathroom tile, your different windows and doors, we can be a part of that conversation and aid you as we come into springtime. When everything starts to thaw out, you'll be able to hit the ground running. You'll have your drawings already complete. You'll have your permit submitted to the town. They'll have that approved, and you can just get into construction. Otherwise, we run into a lot of red tape trying to do things quickly, and we have a lot of backlog because everybody tries to start building once that weather gets nice. You have a lot of people going to town offices trying to get their permits, and that only pushes that timeline further and further down the line. So when you had finished designing something in May or June and you want to start building, your goal is to build in July, you submit your permit in June, the code officer's out on vacation, there's some other problem that they hadn't thought of. Now we're in August. They finally give you permission to start building end of August. The contractor you hired to build can't start until September. Now we're at the end of September. You're just starting to get the foundation in the ground. You get our first snow in November, and now you have to stop building because we're in the middle of December and you haven't got your house closed in yet. So if we had started that process as early as possible, we can hit that ground in February, January, December even, getting the permit submitted to the town so that they have time to review it. We can make sure everything that they're concerned about is taken care of, everything you want is taken care of, and by the time that thaw hits, we hit the ground running with your build. If you're looking to get in contact with us, you can visit our website at humearchitecture.com. That's Hume architecture.com. And it's a tough one to spell. ARCHITECTURE in one. And you can go over to the contact us page. You can fill out a little questionnaire that tells us a little bit about you, your project, your location. And then once you hit submit, that comes back to us and we'll reach out to you. If you feel more comfortable just straight emailing us, we do have our information. It is info@humearchitecture.com, or you can give us a phone call at 585-599-1008. Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to building with you.